Blue Jackets are about to finish up their nightmare West Coast swing. Can they do it with a win? We're going to talk about that on today's Locked on Blue Jackets.
You're Locked on Blue Jackets, your daily podcast on the Columbus Blue Jackets, part of the Locked on Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome to Locked on Blue Jackets, part of the Locked on Podcast Network, your team every day. I am, as always, your host, Jay Foster, here to give you the good, the bad, and the ugly about your favorite team and mine, the Columbus Blue Jackets. Before we get things started, I want to thank everyone for making this your first listen of the day every single day. Locked on Blue Jackets is free and available on all podcast platforms and over on YouTube. I also have to let you know that today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. You can start the season with a big return on FanDuel. New customers, if you place a $5 bet, you're going to get $150 in bonus bets if that bet wins. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. Let's talk about the Seattle Kraken because the Blue Jackets need a win in a big way. And I think there's an avenue here where the Blue Jackets can treat this as a get right game. I talked about this a little bit yesterday in terms of I think if you just get this streak over and done with, you'll get back on track a little bit. The season is by no means dead in the water yet. I think it's been a tough November after such a good October to then kind of fall on your face in November. It was always kind of tough, but it balances out, and I think the Kraken is a really interesting opportunity for the Blue Jackets to kind of get back on board with what's happening. They obviously, 4 games into this road trip, they have yet to have a win. They're on a 5-game losing streak right now. They got a single point in San Jose against the Sharks. But you want to be winning games against the Sharks. You want to be winning games against the Ducks. They're 2 of the worst teams in the NHL right now. That's not me being mean to them. It just is what it is, And the Blue Jackets have fallen down the standings in the last kind of week or so. The Sharks are actually a better team than the Blue Jackets right now, but in terms of points anyway. But they've also played 3 more games, and they have 1 extra point out of it. So, Kraken as well, they've played an extra game from the Blue Jackets. They're a point ahead. So, they're in a similar-ish position. What do the Blue Jackets do about this? And there's a couple of ways that you can kind of look at what the Blue Jackets should do for this, and one of them is more exciting than the other one, and I wonder, I can't decide which way they're going to go. I have my suspicions, but the thing is that the Blue Jackets haven't been playing badly. They weren't great against the Jets or the Capitals, but on this swing, the Sharks, the Kings, and the Ducks games, they've played very well. The skaters have anyway. We talked yesterday about how the goaltending wasn't good enough against the Kings or against the Ducks. But Elvis was fine against the Sharks, and the skaters themselves have been creating a lot of offense, have been doing the right things, have been limiting shots. They just haven't been going in. Which honestly is kind of what I expected from a Dean Everson coach team. We talked a lot about how this October was just the most unsustainable heater for the Blue Jackets in terms of shooting. They scored I think it was, they scored 6 goals in a game, 6 goals in 4 of their first 8 games. So this feels a lot more like what I kind of expected from this team, which was limiting shots, maybe creating some offense, but not quite getting it done, which is kind of frustrating, especially when you look at, we look at the fact that they, this October, they know how to do it. They know how to score goals, so do you stick to the message? Do you stick to the systems? Do you say, listen, we're just going to grit our teeth and get through this? Or do you make changes? And they've made a couple of small changes. I'm going to talk about Dante Fabro in a minute. It sounds like he's going to be making his Blue Jackets debut in Seattle tonight. They've mixed up the top 6 a little bit, bringing Voronkov into it, moving Adam Fantilli to the wing, putting Cole Sillinger back at center, which I'm not happy with. But we'll talk about it in a minute here. But there's a difference between like tweaking the lineup and then just like tearing it up and starting from the beginning, which we saw a lot of last season. You know, I talked a lot in episodes last year about how the Blue Jackets didn't have any consistent lineups. You know, like they had, I think basically their leading line had a quarter of the ice time of the top line. So like the Rangers second line, I want to say, potentially their first line, played almost 800 minutes together last season. The line for the Blue Jackets, which had the most ice time, which I don't remember what line that is off the top of my head. I suspect it would have been Jenna Gaudreau and potentially Marchenko, I think is what it was. They had about 200 minutes of ice time, so literally a quarter of that. You know, every time something went wrong, they'd rip the roster up and start again and find new and even more annoying combinations to have to pay attention to. Dean Evason, for the most part, he's tweaking the lineup, but not a lot. You know, like the bottom six is mostly staying the same. The top six is mostly staying the same. They're moving players around, but it feels a little bit like, and we haven't seen like morning skate. I'm recording this at like 3 a.m. where the Blue Jackets are. You know, they're not going to skate for another 8 hours probably. We don't know what the lines are going to look like, but I suspect they'll probably look very similar to the Ducks game, because I thought the Ducks game, again, goaltending aside, was fine. Would have loved to see them put the puck in the net a little bit more, but it was fine. So I can see them keeping mostly the same lineup. Again, it sounds like Dante Fabro will be in, presumably for Jordan Harris. We'll get another game of the Jack Johnson experience, which whatever. But it feels like they are just going to kind of keep doing what they're doing. And I get why that's frustrating to a lot of people. And I get why, you know, the definition of madness is doing the same thing over and over and over and expecting different results. But when you look at the roster that this team has right now, like this is what the roster is. You know, they don't have bodies that they can swap in and out, really. They have an extra forward. They have 2 extra defensemen now. So I assume that both Harris and Jiricek will be sitting. My guess is that Jiricek goes to Cleveland, which I personally am more than okay with, despite the fact that people are, again, kind of being doobers about it of, oh, he's going to get traded. Hey, other teams are like, hey, we'll give you a 2nd-round pick for him. Shut up. Send him to Cleveland. Let him build confidence down there. Like the Monsters are doing fine. They just won. I think they've won 5 of their last 6. They just won last night against Utica. Denta Matejchuk doing very well. Like I think putting Matejchuk and Jiricek together in the AHL and letting them cook together, I think is a really solid base for presumably what is going to be a really solid pairing for the Blue Jackets in, you know, a year, 2 years time. You know. But the Blue Jackets don't have the luxury that other teams do of being able to, you know, bring players into the lineup and take players out of the lineup. And, like, they are so tight up against the cap floor, you know? Like, it's not even that they can get rid of someone on a contract and call someone up, you know? Like, bringing in Fabro's $2.5 million cap hit helps. I think that brings the Blue Jackets above the floor. I think they're like $3-ish million above the floor right now, which is not nothing. But just as a side note, actually, while I'm thinking about this, they are just over $4 million above the floor. So like they're doing okay. But they could be doing better, you know? Again, getting actually, you know, Gabranson and Jenner and Johnson's cap hits all count because they're not a long-term IR, so they count against the cap. But the cap situation is what it is. Like, they don't have the luxury that other teams do of being able to kind of mix and match and pull guys in and take guys out and figure it out that way, you know? For better or worse, this is what the team is. And I think picking up guys like Fabro on waivers, picking up Zach Aston-Reese was a waivers pickup, I believe. Like, and Zach Aston-Reese, I thought has been a fine addition to the bottom 6 for the Blue Jackets. These are going to be where the differences are made. You know, you're not going to pick up a random 20 goal scorer off waivers. You're not going to be able to trade for a random 20 goal scorer without giving something up. And I don't think the Blue Jackets want to give up right now. I think bringing Fabro in is interesting. It maybe, again, the question is it that they are weak on that right side? Is it that they're listening to people on someone like Provorov, for example? Who can say? But my point here is that, like, this is likely what the Blue Jackets lineup is gonna look like, at least until someone like Kent Johnson gets back. I don't think we're gonna see Jenna until maybe the outdoor game. I don't think we'll see Gabranson all season, quite frankly. Kent Johnson should be back in 2-3 weeks, we hope. I'm gonna knock on wood about that. So, like, that'll help a little bit, again, with the offense, with the top six, with the goal scoring, etc. But I don't think that ripping the roster up and starting again and completely remaking the lines is going to be what breaks the Blue Jackets out of this slump. They are just going to have to grit their teeth, get through this. Again, regression to the mean is a thing. The Blue Jackets have probably regressed a little too hard to the mean and gone right past the mean, and now they're on the other side of it. So it will come back the other way. It will. It's just real rough to watch right now. On the other side of the ice, the Seattle Kraken just broke their own 4-game losing streak with an overtime win against Vegas. So I want to talk a little bit about the Kraken, what they're kind of bringing to the table right now, and why the Blue Jackets can take advantage of this team. So we're going to do that in just a second here on Locked On Blue Jackets. First, I've got to tell you about SelectQuote. The World Series, the Super Bowl, the Olympics. The world's top athletes get to play in these top-level sporting events thanks to one thing: teamwork. Teamwork can also protect your financial legacy and your family's future. SelectQuote's licensed insurance agents are the perfect teammates when shopping for customized, affordable life insurance, and they can find you the right policy to keep your financial legacy safely in your family's end zone. SelectQuote is one of America's leading insurance brokers with nearly 40 years of experience, helping over 2 million customers find over $700 billion in coverage since 1985. Other life insurance brokers offer impersonal, one-size-all-fits policies that may cost you more and cover you less, but SelectQuote's licensed insurance agents work for you to tailor a life insurance policy for your individual needs in as little as 15 minutes. You invest so much time to take care of yourself and to be the healthiest, best version of you. SelectQuote's exclusive policies can reward that effort, and if you're in good health, they work with carriers that could get you same-day coverage for up to $5 million with no medical exam required. And policies are more affordable than you think. You can get coverage for up to $1 million for as little as $20 per month. Head to selectquote.com and a licensed insurance agent will call you right away with the right policy for your life and your budget. SelectQuote. They shop, you save. Get the right life insurance for you for less at selectquote.com/lockedonnhl. Go to selectquote.com/lockedonnhl today to get started. That's selectquote.com/lockedonnhl. I also have to let you know about FanDuel, because you can start your season with a big swing on America's #1 sportsbook, and that's FanDuel. Right now, new customers, if you bet $5, you're going to get $150 in bonus bets if you win. FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL or any other sport you can think of. Maybe not the MLB, because that just finished for the year, but you can do all of this in one place right on the app. So you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, you can do live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. You don't have to have 17 different ESPN tabs open. It's all on FanDuel. Just go to FanDuel.com to join today. If you win your first $5 bet, you're going to get $150 in bonus bets that you can spend on whatever you want. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. Welcome back to Locked On Blue Jackets. I want to talk a little bit about the Seattle Kraken and how the Blue Jackets kind of match up against them, because I know the Kraken just broke their own losing streak. They're 3-6-1 in their last 10. Included in that is a win against Montreal, who are also struggling. But they got an overtime win against Calgary, lost to Colorado, lost in overtime to Winnipeg, lost to Carolina, beat Montreal, and then lost to Toronto, Ottawa, Boston, Colorado again, before beating Vegas in overtime. That's their most recent game. This is a team that's struggling. This is a team that's been a real up and down team since the beginning of their tenure, which it's their fourth season in the league, I think, which feels insane. They were not great in their first season. They were really good in their second season. They were poor in their third season, and now it looks like they're kind of struggling again in their fourth season. I was looking up at like who was doing big numbers for the Kraken at the minute, and it turns out that it's just Jared McCann. And that's not like hyperbole. Jared McCann has 17 points in 15 games so far. The next best player is defenseman Brandon Montour with 11. So he has 6 points more than second place in scoring on the team. He has 8 points more than second place in forwards, which is Jordan Eberle, Christian Stevenson, and Matty Beniers all have 9 points on the season. Just a real kind of uneven spread of what's happening there. You know, like the Blue Jackets have had kind of an offensive fall off, but they do still have 4 players that are in double digit points wise. Kromachenko continues to be over a point a game. And he's followed very closely by Werenski, who has 10 points in 14 games. Chinakhov, 10 points in 14 games, and Monahan, 11 points in 14 games. So, like, the offense it's died down a little bit, but it's a lot more evenly spread out than the Kraken. So, like, honestly, first thing, shut down Jared McCann. Just stop him from doing stuff. Just annoy the hell out of him, you know? I was at a game a couple of weeks ago here in the UK where the opposing team had a player that just marked my team's best player all game long. Didn't do anything himself, just made sure that he was annoying the hell out of our guy, and it worked incredibly. Set Justin Danforth on Jared McCann, or set, like, I don't even know, like, Kevin LeBanc, or, like, set Dmitry Voronkov on Jared McCann and just make his life difficult. And I think you're going to be in a much better place to succeed if you've shut down this one dude that is doing all of the scoring for the Kraken. He's quieted down in the last handful of games. In his last 5 games, he's only got 3 points, 2 goals and an assist. But, like, the same thing is true for the Blue Jackets. Kromachenko has 2 goals in his last 5 games. That's leading the way. 4 points in his last 5 games. Like, Sean Monahan has quieted down a little bit. Chinakhov has started to pick it up a little bit, but is still not, like, where they need to be. Goaltending is going to be key for Seattle. They've got Joey Decord playing the role of starter right now. He's got a 9-12 on the season. He's got 5 wins in 9 games so far. Philip Grubauer continues to be out. And Joey Decord has been, again, really quite good for this team. Wasn't great against Vegas, but didn't have to be. An 875 save percentage in his last game, 3 goals on 24 shots, and they got the W. So it's a very beatable team. However, that's what I said about the Ducks. That's what I said about the Sharks. That's kind of a little bit what I said about the Kings, you know? So how do the Blue Jackets really kind of match up against this team? Well, they've got a better power play. They've got a better penalty kill. They're better in faceoffs. They're scoring more goals per game. However, they are allowing way more goals per game. The Blue Jackets have dropped all the way down to 28th in the league in goals against per game. They're allowing 3.5 goals per game right now, which is not quite an entire goal a game more than the month of October, but I feel like they were, you know, really hovering around that like 2.7, 2.8 goals per game average at the end of October, and then November happened, and they were like, well, we're just going to, again, regress right to the mean. But Kraken are sitting 21st in power play. They're sitting 19th on the penalty kill. So if you can get your special teams going, that might be, huge for this team. I know they got a power play goal against the Ducks, I want to say. Was it Chinakhov's goal against the Ducks was on the power play? Or Marchenko's goal, I believe. They had a power play goal in the last couple of games, but honestly, the California road trip games have just kind of all blurred into one for me. The Kraken are only scoring 2.8 goals a game versus the Blue Jackets 3.1. So if you can win this game 3-2, like, you might have to. It's gonna be messy. I think it's gonna be not necessarily low scoring, but I think it's gonna be tight. I wouldn't be surprised if it's very much a case of one team scores, then the other 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 team scores. You know, not necessarily like in quick succession, but it feels like it's gonna be a real back and forth. Hopefully they don't go to overtime, because apparently the Blue Jackets don't know how to win in overtime ever. They're 0-2 on the season for overtime this year, and I feel like they were really bad in overtime last season as well. I can't tell you how many games I was watching where they just decided that they were going to force overtime and then give up and not or not even force overtime, but concede, let the other team force overtime and then complete the comeback win. So if we could do it in regulation, that'd be great. But the Kraken are a team that are vulnerable right now. But so are the Blue Jackets. So it's really going to come down to which team is slightly less vulnerable than the other, which team can take advantage of the other. Blue Jackets need to have good goaltending. I don't think they're going to win this game if they're doing their usual 4 goals on 20 shots routine, I suspect Elvis will get the start. For no reason other than they're kind of, again, they're rotating at the minute, and it seems like Elvis has kind of got the upper hand right now. He's got the better stats. Save percentage has dropped below a 900 again after the Kings game, but it's still much better than Tarasov, who's currently rocking an 865. So my guess is it's going to be Elvis versus Joey Decord. The Kraken didn't play last night, I don't believe, so they should be, fresh and ready to go. They last played. When was their last game? I should know this, and yet I don't. Maybe they did play last night. No, they haven't played since November 9th, I think. November 8th. November 8th was their last game, so it's been 4 days off for them. So they're going to be fresh, but they also might be a little bit rusty. Can the Blue Jackets take advantage of that? Well, we'll find out. I want to finish off by talking a little bit about Dante Fabro. I talked to him with my wonderful co-worker and friend over at Locked On Predators and Kimmel about what kind of player they're getting, what happened in Nashville that went so wrong. I threw that up on YouTube and the podcast feed. It's just a little 12 or 13 minute clip, I think. But I want to talk a little bit more about Dante Fabro because I assume he's going to be making his Blue Jackets debut tonight. What does he bring to the team? What should we expect? Things like that. That's all coming up in just a second here on Locked On Blue Jackets. First, I want to tell you about Prize Picks. What is Prize Picks? Well, it's the best place to get real money sports action. With over 10 million members and billions of dollars in awarded winnings, Prize Picks has made daily fantasy sports accessible to all. All you got to do is pick more or less on at least 2 players for a shot to win up to 100 times your cash. Run your game all season long on Prize Picks. They are active in over 30 states, including places like California, Florida, Georgia, and Texas, which don't usually have things like Prize Picks available to you, and it's the only real money daily fantasy platform with an injury insurance policy, so that your lineups stay in place even if one of your players gets injured. If your player leaves in the first period and doesn't return, Prize Picks is going to keep your lineup live anyway. Prize Picks also invented the flex play, which means that you can cash out if your lineup isn't perfect. You double your money even if one of your picks doesn't hit. And they now offer Venmo, so quick and easy deposits and withdrawals are even quicker and easier this sports season. Sign up today and get $50 instantly when you play $5. You don't even need to win to receive the $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. So you can keep cooking up hot takes with you and your friends all season long. Download the app today. Use code LOCKEDONNHL to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Once again, that's code LOCKEDONNHL to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks. Run your game. Welcome back to Locked On Blue Jackets. Let's finish off by talking a little bit about Dante Fabro, who is the newest Blue Jacket in town, and looks like he's going to be making his debut. I assume it's going to be on the third pairing with Jack Johnson, but I also wouldn't be surprised to see if they maybe try him a little bit higher up in the lineup. I'm not sure where he would fit because I don't think that they're going to split up. Although I guess they did, didn't they? They played Werenski with Severson and Provorov with Christensen for at least parts of the Ducks game, I believe. So do you put Fabro with Werenski and see what happens? Because something I talked about with Ann Kimmel is Dante Fabro either played on the top line with Robert Yossi or was a healthy scratch. So do the Blue Jackets throw him in the top 4 and see what they have? Do they ease him in on the third line and maybe give him, some penalty kill time, things like that, to kind of, see how he does? I don't know, but it'll be interesting to see. I don't know that he's going to immediately wow the the Blue Jackets faithful. I don't think he's gonna walk in and immediately knock everyone's socks off. But if he can be, solid, consistent, if he can be a calming presence, what the Blue Jackets need from him right now is consistent defense, I think. Because the Blue Jackets have been doing pretty well at limiting shots and not letting guys just walk straight in. And, I think that Fabro is going to add to that. There's really no risk in the waiver pickup, if he works out, great. If he doesn't, you throw him back on waivers and see what happens, or you flip him at the deadline, which is my guess is that they flip him at the deadline, retain a little bit of salary and take a pick. But I'm going to be really interested to see what Fabro does. I do think I would like to see him with Werenski, and then you maybe move Provorov down. But then, I have liked Christensen and Severson together as a pairing, So what do you do then? Do you put Provorov and Severson back together, bump Jake Christensen down to the third line, and roll Christensen and Johnson together, for example? I could see that happening. I could see them just throwing Dante Fabro on a pairing with Jack Johnson and seeing how that goes. My guess is not great, but maybe he will be the one to be able to carry Jack Johnson to being competent in this system. So there's a lot of intrigue there. Like I said, I'm really interested to see how it goes. Do I think the Blue Jackets are going to win tonight? I hope that they win, and I'm going to predict that they win. I don't know how much of my heart is in that. But let's say, what was I saying before? Let's say a 3-2 win for the Blue Jackets. And I think Sean Monahan is going to get back in the goal scoring column tonight. Obviously, the Blue Jackets are going to be facing off against old friend Oliver Bjorkstrand, who has been around with Seattle basically, I think 2 seasons. It was very shortly after the Gaudreau signing and then the Line A contract extension, which now that Line A's not here does kind of sting. I would love to see. Oliver Bjorkstrand is not necessarily the one that got away in the same way that Artemi Panarin is, but man, I would really love to see Oliver Bjorkstrand on this team again. He's got 6 points in 14 games for the Kraken this season. So why not? They had a Vladislav Gavrikov revenge goal on the Kings the other night. I'm going to go ahead and assume that we're going to see an Oliver Bjorkstrand revenge goal as well. I hope they don't. I like nice things for him, just not when he's playing our team. But I think a 3-2 Blue Jackets win. I think a Sean Monahan goal. And we're going to cross our fingers and hope that it doesn't go to overtime. So that's all for me today. Tomorrow we'll break down tonight's game, the good, the bad, the ugly, you know how it goes. Hopefully we'll get to talk about putting the losing streak away, knock on wood. I've been Jay Foster. You can find me on Twitter at _JacobFoster, JAKOBFORSTER. You can find the show at LO_Blue Jackets. If you have comments, questions, criticisms, email me at lockedonbluejackets@gmail.com. And you can find the show wherever you get your podcasts. You can find us on YouTube. Thank you for making us your first listen of the day every single day. Once again, I will be back tomorrow with a breakdown of tonight's game, hopefully talking more good than bad and no ugly at all, we hope. But until then, make sure you stay locked on.